What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality Podcast. I am your host. I am Caitlin Kenna. Today, we are going to be breaking down 5 of the most common reasons why people quit at their fitness and nutrition goals. I figured that it would be the perfect time to talk about this, seeing as it is Monday, January 30th, and we are 30 days into the first month of the new year. So there's a lot of people who are out there and who may have fallen off or may have started to second guess the promises that they wanted to keep to themselves and that they made on January 1st. You know, we all roll into the new year super motivated and super ready to get after it, but motivation is fleeting. It's a feeling that we can't rely on. It's like that friend who always cancels on you at the last second. Don't do that to yourself. Now, moving forward with the podcast, I want to start off every single episode with some sort of a nutrition tip, some sort of a fitness tip, or going over some sort of an article that I recently came across with fitness and nutrition information. So that way we can add some value right off the bat, and that way you guys can always leave this show with learning at least one new thing. That's what this is all about spreading value and helping people. So with that being said, let's get into it. So I came across a nutrition article on Science Daily today, and the title of the article was "Reducing Total Calories May Be More Effective for Weight Loss Than Intermittent Fasting." No fucking way. Now, I have a very strong opinion on intermittent fasting, and I think it has to do with the fact that if you go on social media or if, you talk to people, they have this idea that there's something magical about intermittent fasting. It's like this mystical, magical thing that delivers results to people more than anything else. But the reality is, and going off of what the article says, reducing total calories is more effective for weight loss than intermittent fasting. So the article says timing from first meal to last meal was not associated with weight loss in a 6-year study. Eating less overall and eating fewer large meals may be more effective weight management strategy than restricting meals to a narrow time window. So this kind of just proves my point, is that there's nothing magical about time-restricted eating. There are some incredible benefits when it comes to time-restricted eating, and some people really thrive on intermittent fasting. And the reason why they thrive on it is because it's something that they can remain consistent with that also puts them in a calorie deficit, aka reducing total calories, which makes it effective for some people. Now, the same benefits that you see from intermittent fasting, like mental clarity, better insulin levels, weight loss, those are all the same as losing body fat and improving your health. You're going to experience the exact same things. So what intermittent fasting can do for some people, especially if they're not managing their calories, is it could actually trick them or almost force someone into a calorie deficit because they just have less time to eat. When you give someone less time to eat, they are probably going to eat less naturally, thus putting them maybe in a calorie deficit. Now, some of the disadvantages to this is that there is less flexibility. Like, you only have, for example, one of the most popular ones is an 8-hour eating window. So you only have 8 hours where you can eat. So God forbid that, your significant other wanted to go out to dinner after your 8-hour window. You kind of have no wiggle room there. And one of the biggest disadvantages to it is that it can be really, really difficult to eat enough protein during that 8-hour window. One of the things that my clients struggle with the most when it comes to starting off with their nutrition, like managing their nutrition and improving their nutrition, is being able to eat enough protein, because protein is extremely satiating. And most people naturally just don't eat enough, which is about 1 gram per pound of your ideal or goal body weight. Or if you're at a good weight, it would be 1 gram per pound of what you currently weigh. Now, most people just don't eat that much unless they are actively trying to. So because of how satiating protein is, it can be really difficult to eat it if you are time restricted to only 8 hours to get in, let's say, 150 or 200 grams of protein, depending on the person. So it can be difficult to eat enough protein to actually maintain your lean muscle and provide your body with the building blocks that it needs to increase muscle and improve your metabolism. So you don't have to do time-restricted eating in order to lose weight. Now, the study shows that. Now, here's some tips, guys. Like, one of the biggest things, if you're just starting off and you have really no idea where to start when it comes to your nutrition, like, you know that you want to make a change and you know that you probably should start paying attention to what you're eating a little bit more, but you really don't know where to even begin. Like, you've never tracked calories, you don't really have any sort of an idea where you're at. The first thing, guys, would be figure out how many calories you're eating right now. Like, figure out where you're at. Figure out how many calories you need to maintain the weight that you're currently at. So what you could do is you can kind of just take an average of what you've been doing. And I really recommend tracking your calories, like using a food scale, using a calorie tracking app. I use the First Form app, and I advise my clients in that app as well. And it's a really convenient tool because you can literally weigh out your food on the food scale that you get from Walmart for like $10. They're not expensive at all. And then you literally just put in what you've been eating, and then you can see what the total calories, protein, carbs, fats, fibers, sugars, all of those things come out to at the end of the day. And then over a period of like 1 or 2 weeks, you can kind of see what you typically do and then determine from there, based on if the scale goes up or down or stays the same, if you need to lower that number to start your fat loss or just change the macro spread, which means like maybe you just need to eat more protein, need to eat a little bit less processed foods and more nutrient-dense foods. Or for a lot of people, because a lot of people have been crash dieting their whole life, they actually need to slowly increase their calories in order to improve their metabolism with a big emphasis on protein. And then, from there, once you determine your calories, then we want to emphasize protein, right? So I said 1 gram per pound of your ideal or current body weight is a really good place to start because that's going to make sure that you're not deficient in protein and that you're actually giving your body the building blocks it needs to increase metabolism, to increase muscle. So that way you can actually see the fat loss instead of just weight loss, which will come from just eating less calories. From there, after the protein, you got your carbs and your fats. But the carbs and fats ratio is honestly way less important, especially when you're first starting off. Fats are an essential nutrient. You literally would die without enough fats. So you need that for proper hormone function and proper cognitive function. So I like to make sure that we set that number at around 30% of total calories. You can go like 25 or 35, but I think 30% for most people is a really good place to start. I never, ever, ever will put a female below 45 grams, and I'll never put a male below 55 grams because that is kind of getting into that danger zone where people start to experience hormone deficient, like their hormones don't work properly. They start getting that brain fog. They just start not sleeping well. Maybe their joints are aching. They have more inflammation. Now, of course, everybody's different. This is super generic, okay? So once you set that fat at about 30% of your total calories, then you just fill in the rest of the calories with carbs. And that's the generic way to go. Obviously, this is going to change on an individual level. Some people feel better or tolerate carbs better than other people. But the most important thing here is finding out what allows you to feel your best, stay the most consistent, and feel the least restrictive. Because that's going to allow you to actually stick with it long enough to earn the results. This is a lifestyle. Keep that in mind. The most important thing is figuring out where you are at now with your food intake, then making small adjustments based on where you want to go. But really focusing on habits and behaviors that allow you to get there. So now we're going to transition a little bit into the topic of the podcast, which is the most common reasons why people quit at their fitness, nutrition, and health goals. Guys, like I said, it's January 30th. There are a lot of you out there who are in this category right now. So we're just going to get right into it. The 5 most common reasons why people quit at their fitness and nutrition is 1, poor planning and preparation, 2, emotional eating, 3, eating out too often, 4, lack of variety in the food that you're eating or your nutrition, and then 5 would be convenience or lack of convenience and time restraints. So I feel like a lot of us probably have fallen into one of these categories before, or maybe all of them, or multiple of them. I know that I've definitely fallen into maybe all of them at some point in my life. And these are just things that I've observed being in the fitness industry for over a decade and coaching people in person, training people in person, as well as managing gyms and managing fitness departments. And now being an online coach where I've worked over my career with thousands of different people, and everybody has different reasons as to why maybe sometimes they fall off the wagon or why they quit. Now, I am a true believer. The reason I use the word quit here and not fail is because you have to understand that with anything in life, but especially with something as mental or something as different as a fitness and nutrition goal or journey, you're gonna fucking fail. Like, you're gonna mess up, you're gonna make mistakes, but it's all about learning from those experiences and moving forward with them. So the only time you actually truly fail is when you quit. And these are really big reasons why people quit. Now, I want to go into each and every one of them and kind of give you guys some actionable items that you can take and apply to your life if you find yourself falling into one of these categories right now. Like, if you're struggling, or you can just kind of keep them in the back of your mind for when maybe you do run into one of these things, or hey, you can maybe help somebody else out. Like, we all know people that are trying to change their life and improve their health, and maybe right now you're doing a really good job with it and you're being consistent and you kind of have this momentum, but maybe one of your friends or family members isn't, and they're struggling with one of these things. So you can maybe direct them in the right direction to help them get to where you are. You know, that's what it's all about. I really love the fitness side of things and the nutrition side of things because I feel like it brings people together and it helps us all improve the world when it's done right. Of course, there's a lot of bullshit in the fitness and nutrition industry, but for the most part, people are just trying to get better, and that's pretty cool. So the number one reason is poor planning and preparation. And to be honest, these aren't in any real order, like 1 to 5. Like, the number one thing isn't the most important thing and the most common thing, but I really feel like this one is probably the most common one, because I think we've all been there where even if it's just for a day, we don't plan properly and we don't actually prepare our food or prepare when we're going to do our workouts, and they just end up not happening. And now it's the end of the day and we have 50 grams of protein to hit, but there's no way we are eating it. Or, oh shit, it's 10 o'clock and I haven't gotten a workout in, but I'm exhausted from my long day at work and I need to be up at 5 a.m. So we're kind of probably not going to do it. And some things that you guys can do in order to not have this happen to you and not fall into this category is you can start meal planning and prepping your food in advance. So you've probably heard the phrase plan to fail, fail to plan. No, I always mess it up. It's fail to plan, plan to fail. So if you don't have a plan, you're kind of just pulling shit out of your ass. Like, let's be honest. Like, it's really difficult to go into a situation, say you have a 9-to-5 job where you're working all day and you kind of have to just make stuff happen on the fly or just track your food as you go. It's really difficult to do that. Like, it's definitely better for you to take a little time out of your Sunday where you're cooking things in bulk, like, I also feel like a lot of people overcomplicate this side of things. They just think that in order to meal prep or in order to plan their meals, they have to plan out and prep these big elaborate things. And really what I find that works for me, because I've been doing this for a fucking long time, what works for me and what works for the majority of my clients is just taking 1 to 3 protein sources that you enjoy and cooking them in bulk at the beginning of the week. So think like chicken, steak, and beef. Okay, so chicken, steak, ground beef. We got those things that we prepped. And then doing the same thing with some carbs in bulk. So think like potatoes, rice, and then maybe you pick up something easy like some bread or some tortillas that you can just use. And then throughout the week, you can mix and match those things and divide them up into meals based on what you need. And that way you don't get that palate fatigue or you don't get bored with the same old lunch. Like one day for lunch, you could have the chicken and rice and add some mustard or some different seasonings and then a veggie. And then you can take the steak and you can use it with the tortillas and add some peppers and onions and salsa. And you have a really good lunch. Another tip here, guys, is literally you have to manage your nutrition. Like you don't have to track your food forever and weigh out your food forever. I highly recommend not doing that because I really believe that you shouldn't be attached to an app or a scale. But it's important to do it for at least a little bit of time so you can actually understand what a portion looks like and to understand and educate yourself on what you're eating. So when it comes down to this, when you're meal planning and prepping in advance, to be as accurate as possible and track your food, you can go into whatever app that you're using to track your food and you can pre-track for the next day and play what I like to call macro Tetris. You know, you play around with your numbers and portions until you get a protein and a calorie check mark. And then as you get more consistent with hitting your protein and your calories or being very close, you know, like within 10% of each, then you can really start to nail in everything else. And once you start really hitting those numbers and you start being consistent with your protein and your calories, you're going to see your body change, especially if you're doing the work in the gym where you're resistance training and you're breaking down muscle and looking to get stronger and improve your metabolism. When you're feeding your body the appropriate amount of calories and protein and you're giving it the building blocks it needs, you're really going to see some phenomenal results. But that's the biggest thing I see people miss out on is that they just don't hit their protein goal. You have to do it consistently. All right, and that comes down to meal planning and prepping in advance. It's going to make a huge difference. And then always having a backup option or some snacks on your hand, like protein bars, protein powders that you can throw in your coffee or you can throw in water and just shake it up. That's super easy. You can do like deli meats, Greek yogurts, fruits, veggies, beef jerky, turkey jerky. These are all things that you can have. I actually once had a client who would literally go to the store and buy rotisserie chicken when she needed to hit her protein goal, especially if you have a Costco membership. Costco's basically giving away their rotisserie chickens. They're like $4 for any of them. So you go and you get a big old rotisserie chicken, you pay $4, and you have protein for a good amount of time. So plan ahead. Have backup options, have snacks with you all of the time, and then cook at home more often too. Because again, that goes into the whole preparation thing. When you cook at home, you're actually able to control what goes into your food, and you're actually able to hit your numbers more consistently. And then, to be honest, like if you're somebody who's just really, really busy, and you can't find any sort of way to prioritize planning and prepping your food, then invest in a meal prep service. There are so many of them. That market is becoming super saturated with some really, really good options. So like you can invest in that, and that's something that you can use to make life a lot easier. So you can just put those meals in the freezer, then take them out as you need them, and it has all of the macros and the calories on the side for you. So that way you literally have no excuse. Like for me, I don't utilize a meal prep service because I work at home and I just like to cook my meals in bulk because, again, it's one of those things like I like to control everything that goes into it. But I do, and we utilize Butcher Box. So every month we get, Stone and I, he gets a box and I get a box filled with all of the meat that we need for the month. And so we just load up our freezer with all of our proteins, and then we take it out and thaw it as we need it. And that's super convenient because where we live, it's like really hard for me to go to the grocery store, especially between client calls and between all of the works that I need to do. So if I don't have chicken, then it's going to be really hard for me to hit my protein goal. I'm going to have to really rely on protein shakes and egg whites, which I really don't want to do. I'd rather have a nice warm chicken breast, So that's something that you can do too. If you find it really difficult to find time to go to the grocery store, you can utilize things like Instacart, ButcherBox, different subscriptions and services, because those are usually cheaper because they don't have to go through the middleman. Like, if you haven't tried ButcherBox, like, I highly recommend doing it. I have no affiliation with ButcherBox, but I just love the quality of the meat. I love the cost, and I love the convenience that I don't even have to remember to order it, and it just shows up at my door once a month. It's pretty fucking cool. Now, number 2, this one's a little bit more tricky, right? The poor planning and prep, that's probably an easier fix than this one. Emotional eating. Because emotional eating, there's a lot of the behaviors and a lot of the psychology and habits that go into this one. And the biggest tip I have for this one is that you really have to become aware of it. Because a lot of people, they just emotionally eat without even thinking about it. And by the time they stop and think about it, they've already binged or they already eaten things that they know that don't serve their goals, but it's kind of too late. You can't really go back in time. So the number one thing you have to do here is be able to, 1, be aware of it, and 2, be so aware that you're able to identify the trigger or what sets it off. Because when we have a habit, we have 3 different parts of a habit. We have the trigger, we have the action or the habit itself, and then we have the reward or what you get from actually doing that action. So what you have to do is you have to understand the trend of when that action occurs. For example, it has a lot to do, again, with emotions. So a lot of those emotions can be like, oh, after a really long, stressful day at work, I find myself in the drive-thru because I just need it, right? And it usually is, okay, that's the trigger, is a long, stressful day at work. But what could we do instead that's going to give you that same relief or reward that the fast food gave you? And that could be, going on a long drive. It could be journaling. It could be going for a walk. It could be listening to music. It's going to change on a person-to-person basis because everybody's different in how they deal with stress. But it's a really good thing for you to find something where you can actually manage your stress. Now, again, it can sometimes be really difficult to overcome these things. Being aware is the first step. Now, once you're aware of it, you want to create space between that trigger and the action. So when that impulse or that craving pops up, your goal should be to create as much space as possible between that impulse and the act of giving into that impulse. For example, if you're craving cookies, don't bring them into the house. Like, tell yourself you can have them, but you have to go out and you have to get them. So by the time you get dressed, drive to the store, buy them, you've given that impulse a little bit of time to kind of simmer and hopefully pass, and you realize that you actually didn't want them in the first place. So if you're someone who does struggle with emotional eating, I really recommend you, 1, become aware of it, identify the trigger, create space between the craving or the trigger and the act of giving into it, and find something that can help you get your mind off of it. Again, like I said, it could be music, it could be meditation, it could be journaling, it could be working out, it could be something positive like that. But also just asking yourself in that moment, like, stop, breathe, think, and ask yourself, hey, am I actually hungry? Do I actually need this right now? Or am I just stressed? Because usually when you can stop and actually breathe and analyze the situation, you're able to make a better decision. So that covers emotional eating. Now for number 3, we got eating out too often. I see this one a lot. Now, you can eat out and you can still reach your goals because it all comes down to, again, managing your nutrition. And that's the beauty of tracking macros, is that, like, you can find the nutrition facts to most restaurants on the website where you're able to make a a pretty general estimation of the calories and the macros. Are they going to be perfect? No. Because, for example, if you go to Chipotle and Bob's work in the line today, Bob's scoop of rice is probably going to look a little bit different from Beth's scoop of rice that you got a couple days ago. Like, you have to be honest with yourself and honest with the portions if you are going out a lot and you're tracking the food that you're eating. But what really matters is consistency. So if you're doing it often enough where you're still seeing results, then keep doing what you're doing. But eating out too much can really add to you not seeing the results that you want, which can lead to you being defeated, and then you ultimately quit. So cook at home more often. Cook at home as much as possible because you're going to have more control over what you eat and what you add, and you're going to know exactly what it is. Pack meals, pack snacks, be prepared. Don't just leave it up to chance. And if you are going out to eat, choose healthier options when eating out. Most places nowadays have a good variety of good things that you can choose from. And if you don't know what to get, think about what you eat when you're not eating out. Like, most places have chicken, have beef, have a burger, have steak. They have something that you can work into your plan. And a lot of it does come down to planning ahead and kind of planning your day around that meal to be able to still hit your numbers. Also, guys, like, if you're eating out a lot, make use of leftovers. Like, if the reason that you're eating out is because you just don't have the time to meal prep and you're using that as your excuse, use leftovers. Here's a really, really good example. And I gave this tip to my clients that I coach and advise in the first format the other day. We do announcements every day, and I usually give like some tips or some hacks, and the theme for the week was protein. So most of us, we have some sort of a dinner where we have, a meat source, whether it be steak or beef or turkey or chicken or fish. We have something like that. Most people do that, So what you want to do is take like 3, 4, 5 ounces of whatever you cooked for that meat. Say it's a chicken breast. You take like 4 ounces of the chicken breast, you put it in a Tupperware, and now you wake up in the morning and you make a little bit of a scramble with some eggs, with some cheese, and you add that chicken breast to that scramble, and now your 12 gram of protein egg scramble just got bumped up to like 30 or 40 grams of protein. That's going to make a huge difference in your world. So you can use that hack for breakfast. You can use the same hack and just apply it to lunch. If you're eating protein throughout the day, make use of the leftovers. Don't just like kind of throw them away and let them linger. Plus, when it comes to eating out, guys, just avoid impulse ordering. This kind of goes back to the emotional eating. Create space. If you actually want the thing, have the thing, but ask yourself if you actually need it. Number 4, lack of variety in nutrition. And this one kind of goes down to like, some people just get bored with the foods that they eat because they think that they need to eat chicken, broccoli, and rice all damn day long to be able to see results, which is absolutely not true. Quality of food is very fucking important, but that doesn't mean that you have to eat bland, gross food. Add flavor, try new recipes, use different ingredients. There are so many different resources out there now. You can literally just type in #recipes to TikTok or Instagram, or #healthy recipe, and you're going to get a ton of different things that you can try if you want to do it that way. But you can just use different condiments, different sides, different spices, and get creative with the food that you're eating. You don't have to eat a bland old chicken breast. You can add some good seasoning or some good condiments and just make it your own, Also include like a mixture of fruits and vegetables. Don't eat the same damn veggie every single day. Get in a good variety. Try new things, Take advantage of local farmers markets. Most of us have those things around that we can go to and just explore and get creative with the food that you're eating. Like, the more that you cook your food and really get into it, the closer you are to your food. And the closer you are, the more emotionally attached you are. And you can make some really, really good, healthy dishes. Like, don't be bored with what you're eating. Make it exciting. And number 5, guys, convenience and time restraints I don't have enough time. I don't even know how many times I've heard that one. I don't have enough time when it comes to meal planning and prepping or like hitting macros or working out. It all comes down to making it a priority. Now, I understand that everybody has different responsibilities. So what I want you to remember is that something is always better than nothing. For example, if you're a stay-at-home mom and you're a single mom and you don't have time to get to the gym and it's not realistic for you to just put them down for a nap and then work out because they always wake up and it's never that easy, right? Just do some squats. Do squats. Work out for 5 minutes every fucking 5 hours, right? Just put on a timer and just start squatting. Hold your baby and squat, That's just an example. You can always make something work. Something is always better than nothing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be I'm going to the gym for an hour every single day, getting my pump on, resistance training, and I'm making, these elaborate meals. It doesn't have to be like that. Sometimes you're hitting your macros because you're having protein shakes and you're having sandwiches. Is it better to have higher quality foods? Abso-fucking-lutely. But it's not always realistic. So this kind of convenience and time restraint goes back to meal planning and prepping. Make sure you do that all in advance. Keep healthy snacks. Keep ready-to-go snacks on hand that are easy for you to grab and go. And don't forget things like Instapot, slow cookers, air fryers, Traegers. They're really great things that you can just put the protein source in and go. I used to make this all of the time back when I worked at the gym because I was at the gym for 14, 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. So one thing I would do is in the morning, I would turn on my slow cooker and I'd put an entire pack of chicken breasts in there, put a little bit of chicken broth, or even some salsa and some spices, and I'd put it on low for 8 hours. So when I come back, my meal prep is ready to go. Do the same thing with a rice cooker. There are so many good things that you can buy that aren't even a big investment that are going to make a huge bang for your buck. Plus, don't forget that you can do batch cooking where you're cooking a lot of different things at once and then you're dividing them up into Tupperwares and then you're freezing them for later. It's the same premise as what meal prep services do. So with all of these things, it comes down to really making it a priority and understanding that something is better than nothing. So whether you struggle with poor planning or prep, emotional eating out too often, a lack of variety in the food that you're eating, or you just can't find the time to do it, just remember that no matter how crazy life gets, no matter how bad things get, no matter how good things are, whether you're in a prison or whether you're in prosperity, you always have one thing. And that one thing is your choice. You always have a choice. And every day you want to evaluate those choices and make sure that you have the right intent. And make sure that the choices that you're making on a daily basis are taking you closer to the things that you want from life and not taking you closer to the things that you don't want. Guys, if you found value from this podcast, please share it on your social media. Share it with at least one person that you find is going to get value from it. And like I always say, go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.